Hello, welcome today. This is Scarlet and Rage podcast. I am Michael. Of course, Jay is here with me, and we are going to get into this last week of Buckeye football. I always forget to say this, Jay, and I think you always forget to say it too, but like and subscribe to this channel. Like this video if you would. If you do like it, if you don't like it, dislike it, but just interact with it some way. Because I think if you dislike it, that might help too. So just either like it or dislike it, however you feel about it. And if you enjoy it in any way, hit that subscribe button and hit the bell so that you know when we are going to be releasing a new video. The bell will alert you every time one of our videos goes live, which is every Monday. Right now, that's our schedule, but it's kind of different times on Monday. So the bell will help you know exactly when it is ready. We're also on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music, all of those places as well. So, yeah, Jay, let's do a little NFL talk here before we get to the Buckeyes. You were, a lot of the talk around the Titans, your team. My Bengals are playing right now, playing very well, but a lot of the talk around your Titans team is kind of like hopeful that maybe there's this new budding quarterback that might have a future. Ryan Tannehill's been kind of a drag on the franchise, but you're not seeing it that way. You're not very happy with what's going on in Nashville right now. Is that right?
Michael, I actually put my name down tonight. We are the Scarlet and Rage. We kind of talk about the things that people are uncomfortable talking about. And I am the Rage tonight, man. I'm not really happy about anything regarding the Titans, my other teams. Every team that I cheer for has let me down. And man, dude, it's just like, I ended my boycott. Remember, I've told everyone on here I haven't watched the Titans all season. I decided, I was like, well, they are starting Will Levis against Pittsburgh. I'm like, well, I'll take a look because, I still am a Titans fan, but I love them so much that, they're killing me. It's like I need to set myself free. So, like, what do they say? Like, if you love something so much, set it free. I needed to set myself free because it was killing me to watch it and I couldn't take it anymore. So I decided to sit down and watch Thursday Night Football with the Tennessee Titans because they were on Thursday night. I'm like, well, what else do I have going on? I decided to watch them. And also because I hate Pittsburgh. They're my least favorite NFL team. It's not even close. And I will say this. The city of Pittsburgh is the worst city in America. Take it or leave it. Fuck that city. It sucks. That was despicable. And I will say this. We are filming this a couple days later, and it's unfortunate that I really can't get my real unfiltered thoughts about this because I'm kind of mellowed out and I'm tired because of the stupid time change that's here. But that was just a despicable, disgraceful, disgusting performance. Like, this is, everything in that game exemplified exactly why I don't watch them. They're not a fun team to watch. They suck. Like I've said, I'm like, they suck. Where do I even start? Like, number one, Mike Vrabel sucks. He is terrible. I've said this for a long time. He is a garbage coach.
Okay, this ties into the Buckeyes because he's a Buckeye, former NFL star, Buckeye, coach for the Buckeyes. A lot of fans like Mike Vrabel. Why do you not like him as a coach? Because I don't really know that much about him as a NFL coach, other than he had a couple of good teams that went to the playoffs, and like that's kind of it. I don't follow the Titans close enough to know. Why don't you like him?
Boy, man, where do I start? Number one, I've been calling for Vrabel to be fired a couple years ago, ever since his one of the worst again against your team, the Titans when they played the Bengals a couple years ago. Like that game plan and just the preparation for the team was just despicable. I was calling him to even be fired during like the 2020 COVID season and after 2021 because I realized the Tennessee Titans team in 2021 could not have been any more loaded, and they failed. That team in 2021 was winning in spite of him, not because of him. He was living off his 2021 season. For starters, Mike Vrabel The franchise is never going to move in the right direction with him until he's gone. He is obsessed with running an offense from the 1980s, and it hasn't gotten him any success, and he always loses the big games. They're not prepared. They're very easy to scheme against. I was working something last night. I told you about this. If anybody actually knows what I do in my, for work, I was working something last night, and I was able to run into some Indianapolis Colts players, and they specifically told me that the Titans offense sucks. It's easy to play against. They're slow, and they're a joke. They all told me this.
Do you think he could adapt if Levis ends up being a
Absolutely
good quarterback?
not. Absolutely not. No,
now,
no.
I do know that they've had an insane amount of injuries the last couple of years. Like their offensive line is had crazy injuries and things like that.
It doesn't matter. They've had good offensive lines, and he still runs the same game plan. It doesn't matter who they have. It doesn't matter. All he does is run Derrick Henry into walls, and I feel bad for Derrick Henry because I think I might have said this. He's the most talented running back of all time. I don't care what anybody says. He's 6'3", and in his prime, he was running probably a legit 4.5 laser time 40 with a disaster, with just a nasty stiff arm and just uncanny power and explosiveness. Like there's just never been a human like that playing in the NFL, like ever in existence. I know Barry Sanders put up the most stats, but as pure raw physical talent, Derrick Henry was the best. But
250 pounds or so.
I think he's like I don't know. I think he's listed like 240. I actually don't know, but I do know he's like 6'3", and he's just again he's really fast for how big he is. Most backs that big aren't that fast, but the defense is not good. Not much to really say there about the Titans defense. They play soft on the corners. They don't tackle well. Like Pittsburgh was literally just tossing the ball out into the flats the entire game and just basically just taking like the 8-9 yard cushions that the Titans corners were on. They couldn't make the tackles in the open field. Jeffrey Simmons, who is our all-pro defensive tackle, he appears to have gotten lazy after his huge payday. I will touch on Will Levis. A lot of people are very excited about him. Two things are positive with Will. Elite arm strength. Like arm strength wise, I can't really say that any quarterback in the NFL has a better arm than him. I think he's about right there with any of them. And he's got great size at 6'4", but he doesn't have anything else. He doesn't throw with much accuracy. His mechanics are so bad, and he throws off his back foot way too much. He provides next to nothing from a scrambling standpoint, which that was the most surprising part. I didn't realize that he wasn't a scrambler at all because I know he's a good athlete, but you can be a good athlete and not be a good scrambling quarterback. It's weird. Look at Todd Beckman. In my opinion, you either have that or you don't. It's very disappointing there. I thought that, again, I thought he was a great athlete, but, he doesn't show it when he plays. He just stands there like a statue. And all Pittsburgh needed to do was blitz him and get pressure, and he was done. It's pretty sad that Pittsburgh's a better team than Tennessee because Pittsburgh's not a very good team. I was watching them. They're not very good. I know the record says that they're solid. They're not. I was watching them. They're not very good. And it is just disappointing, man. I mean, Vrabel needs fired. Tannehill needs to be gone. But, when Tannehill is back healthy, I'm going to do like the weird thing. But I'm also going to do the thing that's going to save the franchise, and that is I'm going to put Will Levis back on the bench. He is a better quarterback than Ryan Tannehill right now. He is probably slightly. It's not by much. It's slight, but I would put Will Levis on the bench, and I would start Ryan Tannehill. And this assures that three things are going to happen. Number one, Mike Vrabel is going to get fired. Number two, that's a higher draft pick. And number three, Levis actually learns how to be an actual NFL quarterback from the bench and learning from Tannehill's failures as a quarterback.
So you don't want Mike Vrabel to be the next Buckeye head coach?
Fuck no. Oh, God, man. He's terrible. He doesn't strike me as a person that would be a good recruiter either. Honestly, he doesn't seem to have a very good personality. He seems like kind of a dumb fuck.
Yeah.
He's called meathead on the Titans message boards a lot. I don't know why. Probably because he's dumb and he hasn't adjusted. People can say all the right things. Mike Vrabel was always when he first got hired by the Titans, he would say things like, we're not going to just run the ball when teams have 8-man boxes and this or 8 or 9-man boxes. We're going to take what the defense gives us. And that has not been the case. Far from it. He's the most predictable, boring offense in the NFL. And he's really killing the franchise. He is killing the franchise from the inside because people like me who were once diehard fans are no longer fans anymore. I mean, I still am a fan, but I don't watch them. I would never, ever pay money to go see that trash because that is absolute fucking trash, man. It is disgusting, and I can't stand it anymore.
Well, Jay, speaking of Buckeye coaches and their offense, since Vrabel was a Buckeye coach, we've got another Buckeye coach, Ryan Day, who is known for having elite offenses, and we continue to see week after week that this year that's just not the case. Like, not only do we not have an elite offense, I'm struggling to say that we have a good offense. What did you see in Piscataway, New Jersey, the other day? I mean, because I'll tell you, I continue to see an offense that's loaded with weapons, a little bit deficient on the offensive line, and very deficient at the quarterback position. It's like that's becoming clear. And what's becoming more concerning about the quarterback position is he's not gotten better. He's no better now than he was against Notre Dame or early in the season. He's the same, if not maybe even a little bit worse. There hasn't been a progression. So, I'm not necessarily going to put that on Corey Dennis or Ryan Day. I don't know. I mean, Day has a good enough track record with quarterbacks that I'll give him a little leeway. I'm not going to put this on him. Maybe Kyle just doesn't have the ability, but it certainly is costing this offense what should be a lot more production.
I agree. Ryan Day, I mean, again, there's not much positive to take from Ohio State yesterday watching that game. I'm not in a very good mood about the Ohio State's performance. It's very concerning. There's not a lot of positivity to go around other than the fact they covered the spread late. And I did predict last week it would be a struggle of a game, but it's always in the back of my mind, Michael. It's always in the back of my mind that I'm hoping that I'm wrong. So then, I'm like, okay, this team is legit. I'm wrong. Like, I would be happy to be wrong. It would make me feel so good.
I predicted 30-13, so I was pretty close.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're closer than me. What did I think I predicted like 28-13, so
yeah.
Similar. Number one, Ryan Day, it's clear he can't call a good offense without an NFL quarterback because Mikal McCourt's not an NFL quarterback. He won't play in the NFL. His play calling sucks. I mean, and again, McCourt is not very good, and I think he borderline sucks, but I'm not going to say that yet. But Ryan Day's play calling, it's like they always run the ball on first down. Where were the deep shots? I understand Rutgers was in a too high, and apparently Ryan Day didn't know that until the second half. He actually said that, and that's really concerning. You should be able to figure that out in midway through the first quarter. Did you know that?
If you're essentially the de facto offensive coordinator and you don't know that they're in too high, that's a problem. I mean, that is a big problem because the day's coming very soon that you're not playing Rutgers. You're not playing Purdue. You're not playing Michigan State. You're not playing Minnesota. You're playing Michigan. You're playing maybe Georgia or Florida State or somebody like that. And you can't, I just think this goes back to the fact that Ryan Day, you got to give him credit for his record. You got to give him credit this year for being 9-0. They could easily, certainly be 8-1 or maybe even 7-2. I mean, so you got to give him credit for that. But I still think that his mismanagement of this staff could end up costing them at some point because he doesn't have an offensive coordinator. And that's a problem. And when you're playing big boy football and you have all of the responsibilities that a head coach has at Ohio State or any of these major programs, you don't need to be fully responsible for calling the plays on the sideline and coming up with the offensive game plan. I mean, clearly, if he didn't know they were in too high safeties, that means that he's not dialed in as a play caller over there.
Well, supposedly it's like I don't know if he trusts the people in the booth that are supposed to be giving him feedback. I don't know who's up there. I heard it was Corey Dennis, but
Corey Dennis and Keenan Bailey, those two
yeah,
wizards,
that's not Kevin Wilson. Again,
those two seasoned all-stars.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. I mean, again, Kevin Wilson supposedly is sucking it like Tulsa. Bring him back.
Yeah, can we get Wilson back, please?
Bring him back. Get rid of those two guys. Well, Keenan Bailey's supposedly a good recruiter, but Corey Dennis can go. Ryan Day is a good recruiter of quarterbacks. He doesn't need him here. I think he's just doing a favor to Urban, keeping him around. But anywho, but again, Ryan Day can't call plays without an NFL quarterback. Kyle McCord, borderline sucks. I tried giving him as best a chance I could because, he did show some promise early, but he's not very good. And he's a turnover and sack machine because of his lack of athleticism, and he throws off his back foot, and he makes bad decisions too. Like, I don't know, man. Like 3 interceptions in 2 games isn't very good. There's not much you can say about McCord. It's too late to try somebody else. We only have 3 games left. You can't play anybody else. Devin Brown didn't even play yesterday. They said he was available, but he's obviously not healthy enough to play. And if he were, he's not very good. What do people think that he's going to do? He can't throw. Like he can't run either. So like, what the fuck is the point of playing him?
Well, Jay, if we're looking for positives yesterday, I can find one on the offense, and that's Travion Henderson. I have said multiple times that his freshman season was by and large, huge stats compiled from bad teams. And then last year, we didn't really know what we got because, somehow Day let him play with a broken, messed up foot and didn't tell us, so Henderson took a lot of flack from the fan base because he was playing like crap. And none of us knew that he, was about to have surgery on his foot, so that kind of falls on Ryan Day. And he almost lost Henderson because of that. Henderson almost transferred because he was getting bashed by the fans, and he didn't feel like the guys in the building, namely Ryan Day, were standing up for his interest and just kind of letting people know what he was trying to play through.
Really?
Yeah. He told Doug Maurice that he had to have serious conversations before, he decided to come back. But he said that, they worked it out, and thank goodness they did, because he has proven now in his junior year, even though he's missed 3 games, he has proven that he is a real difference maker on offense, and he is a very valuable player. And if this team is going to accomplish big things, beat Michigan, win the Big Ten championship, and at least win a playoff game or a national championship, any of the above, if they're going to do any of those things, they're going to have Travion Henderson, because he's a difference maker out there.
Man, he is a difference maker, and he was hurt last year. I did come to find out. But again, he struggled with reading the right running lanes, even in his freshman and sophomore year before he was getting hurt. But hey, man, he made I will say this, he's made a J.K. Dobbins type leap in his junior year. More power to him, man. That guy he might be the best running back in the country. He might be. He is that good. I mean, I would be the first one to admit I ripped on him a lot his first 2 years, but not this year. Outside of him being made of glass, and we'll see if he can make it to Michigan. Hopefully Ryan Day doesn't just give him so many freaking carries and hurts him again. But man, he's everything. And you wanted a running back. He's powerful. He's got damn near pure home run hitting speed. He did get caught from behind on that crossing route, but again, he ran all the way, across the field and then up the field. So it was a pretty amazing play nonetheless. So and if we lose him, man, we're screwed.
Yeah,
completely. We don't have an offense without him.
I think as much as I like Marv, I think that we can probably start to almost put the Marvin Harrison Jr. for Heisman talk to rest. I mean, it's not totally out, but I mean, if that was going to legitimately be a shot, he better have he better have 600 plus yards and 6, 7, 8 touchdowns the next 3 games, and just be a difference maker in Ann Arbor and have that Heisman moment, because it's starting to look like he's probably just not going to be able to get the stats there. He's got really good stats, and I get that you can make the argument that like he might be the best player in college football, but you're not going to win the Heisman as a wide receiver with 12, 13, 1,400 yards receiving. They're just not going to do that.
His stats don't even compare to Devontae Smith,
No.
who was like the last receiver in a long time to win a Heisman. And I think like Marv has like 2/3 of the stats of like Devontae Smith. He's not in discussion. He might make an appearance in New York, and that's really the best we can like hope or ask for. He's not going to put up the stats because Ryan is just not throwing the ball as much this year. He doesn't trust Kyle. It's clear he doesn't trust Kyle. And he's really not helping Kyle either, the game plan. Again, I touched on this, but Ryan Day is not he doesn't call a very good offensive game plan without an NFL quarterback, because his entire time here at Ohio State, he's had Dwayne Haskins, he's had Justin Fields, and he's had C.J. Stroud, all NFL quarterbacks. Outside of his first year as OC as J.T. Barrett. But, he wasn't – I mean, that was his first year, but mostly all NFL quarterbacks.
And I'll say this, looking at this team, I know it wasn't in the cards, and it's just like looking back at something that wasn't meant to be. But boy, if you could have put together a $10-15 million NIL deal and gotten CJ Stroud to come back for one more year, you would have bought yourself a national championship, because you put CJ Stroud quarterbacking this team, and this team wins the national championship, no question.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think they were trying something behind the scenes to try and get him to come back. And he kind of thought about it, but I guess it probably wasn't enough money. And you mentioned CJ Stroud. I saw he passed for 490 yards today. Did you see that?
Yeah, I watched the game. He killed it.
Okay, you watched it? Okay, I didn't watch it, but I'm going to watch the highlights of it. And I see the success CJ's having in the NFL, and it makes me wonder something, Michael. It makes me wonder that, are Ohio State skill positions overrated? The skill, like the receivers and tight ends, are they overrated players collectively?
Well, I mean, I think Wilson and Olave are both, showing that they're
no, on this year's team.
On this year's team.
On this year's team.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think we've gotten the production. Emeka has been hurt. I don't really know what is wrong with him, because we never find out. The injury reports are, I mean, they give some kind of injury report, but it doesn't matter. And
the real injury report's only an hour before the game. That's the only
yeah. And they keep everything really hidden. We don't really know what's going on with guys for whatever reason. I haven't figured out why that's the case, but yeah, I mean, Emeka he hasn't produced. Marvin, I don't know if it's a function completely of Marvin or just that Kyle can't maximize what Marvin can do. I don't know. I mean, certainly the offense is frustrating. It's like it just gets stuck in the mud, and it's like it's right there, and they just can't ever make that play that like makes things click, and everything comes into focus. It's just like it stays just a little off balance, a little out of sync.
I will say this, and I asked that question because I personally believe, and I'm starting to watch it more, the skill talent at Ohio State is overrated. I honestly do. I think they're overrated. Stroud made them better. I would have never thought that, but CJ Stroud made the players around him better. And that's what the best quarterbacks do. They elevate the players around them. They aren't a product of the talent around them. They elevate the players around them.
Well, explain that. So you think Marvin and Emeka are overrated? Is that what you're saying?
I would say the unit as a whole is overrated. I would just look at their receivers, though, for the most part. Even Marvin in this conversation, none of them create any separation. Like, you look at the throws, and they're usually tight. Have you seen a receiver like open by like 2 or 3 yards, or like wide open outside of the Western Kentucky game?
Marvin's kryptonite is to play press coverage on him.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, Marvin's, like he's good at making, I mean, like he had a case of the drops for a while there, and he was reminding me of Braylon Edwards, but, CJ Stroud was able to like fit a lot of those passes into tight windows. these receivers, they seem to lack burst in short areas. I think they're fast when they get going, but the first couple yards are really the biggest part of being a receiver and creating separation, especially in man press. Carnell Tate, for instance, like he's got to play over Julian Fleming because Julian Fleming has had his chance, and I don't know what it is. Outside of he had a good Georgia game, but that's it. That's the only game that I've felt that he's done well in. Outside of that, he hasn't done anything. And it's time to move on from him.
Jay, you see this even coaching youth football, like at the 6th grade level. You see this same thing. It's just that, make the athletes bigger, stronger, faster, much more athletic. And, but the same thing happens from 6th grade to junior high to high school to college to even the NFL is you will see guys flash and you're like, man, they've got it. There it is.
Yes.
And you'll see it in little bursts, but then it just disappears for long periods of time. And eventually you have to conclude they are what they are. And you have to, you have to put them back over. And so, very good example of that. I told you, that I was a defensive coordinator for my son's team this year. We had a kid that he would flash. I'd see these flashes. And so I kept trying to play him early in the year and he just disappeared. I put him on the bench, forgot about him. Like you're gone, you're done. And then something kicked in and he started being consistent at the end of the year and he started begging me to play. And I started letting him play. And when I would put him in, he would produce. But this has been a 2-year process with this kid. And so, I think you take that same type of thing and put it at the college level, the highest level college with Fleming. And he just is what he is. He shows little flashes of it, but it just doesn't look like he's going to put it together.
Yeah, I don't even know what flashes he's shown. I mean, like outside of the Georgia game where I guess he, made some good catches and stuff. And I don't know, Georgia wasn't playing a lot of press, man. They were blitzing like hell, but they weren't playing a lot of press. So I don't know. But anywho, it's just, I don't know what it is. Fleming is just, he was overrated, man. It happens every now and then. Most 5-stars are absolute studs. But again, there are a couple that fall through the cracks and just fail, and he's one of them.
Yeah, I mean,
it's unfortunate that it happened at Ohio State.
There are, and and speaking of guys that flash, as we kind of move on to the Ohio State defense.
Before we do, Cade Stover, I missed him.
Okay,
I can't believe this, but I miss Cade Stover.
I can't argue with
that. I would say that because G. Scott, remember he had that drop.
Yeah, G. Scott, he can't block. I know that he was a wide receiver, but he's a disaster blocking. And then you get him dropping balls too, and it's like, boy, why is he out there?
That one pass, and I'm like, damn, this guy needs to play more. And then it's like, holy shit, this dude is like inconsistent. I'm not saying he sucks, but it's like he had like I wouldn't say the easiest of catches. It wasn't the greatest pass. It was like here, like the ball was here.
Right here.
Yeah, and it was like he just dropped it. And that flipped the momentum of the game because we were probably, if he catches that, he picks up another 10, 15 yards. We're going into at least kick a field goal and take control of the game. And now Rutgers all of a sudden has like good field. Actually, you know what? We'll get to the rest of that later. But that was a momentum killer.
So before we move on to defense, what does this mean for the season? Like, the offense, it's becoming increasingly more unlikely that it's going to click. It's not impossible because it can happen. Like it can literally happen on a dime. A team can find the rhythm, things can come together, and stuff that was kind of out of sync all year it can turn. But it's becoming more and more unlikely that that's going to happen every game that goes by that we don't see it. So what do you have any real hopes or expectations that this offense is going to be something different than it's been all year, that it's going to kind of find its way? Or do you think that this is just it?
This is it, man. It's not, nothing's going to change. We are, unless the offensive line can give McCord more time to throw. I don't really see anything changing, but all the teams need to do is just blitz McCord. It kind of like what I was saying with Will Levis, they're both statues. And they're not going to give you anything they're not gamers at all. They're not going to give you anything else than what the play is designed to be. So,
well, and like I said,
McCord better work.
like I said last week, McCord's just not very good in the pocket. He doesn't. Tom Brady, obviously, of course, he's the greatest of all time. He was great at it. And I'm not saying you have to be Tom Brady at it, but he manipulated the pocket so well. A guy today who does it well, Joe Burrow, he manipulates the pocket, just little ways that he maneuvers the pocket that buys more time. And so I mean, those are obviously the best in the world doing it. But Kyle is just like he just doesn't really have any type of pocket presence. It's just like the pocket. It's like he's very uncomfortable in the pocket. It's like he always tries.
How you mentioned that, I know exactly what you're talking about. But you talk to these dumbass fans in the world, and they're like, "Oh, running quarterbacks aren't the thing. You got to have guys that can throw." I'm like, "Hey, dumb fuck." I'm not asking for a running quarterback. I'm asking for somebody who can buy time in the pocket and then scramble to throw, not scramble to run.
People right.
Fucking dumb, man. I'm sick of these people. They're so fucking dumb, and then they don't understand you. Then they go into resort to personal attacks. It's just stupid, man. Just oh my God.
So the defense, it had some struggles too. You had pointed out on one of our favorite message boards that I got to get in that thread and comment. By the way, my phone my phone was jamming up on me for some reason, and it wouldn't post for me. But you had put on that message board that we have displayed this problem with power running, and we had it again. We had that issue again, and so separating it from the Rutgers game, we beat Rutgers. We're a way more talented team than Rutgers. We ended up, talent won the day. But going into Michigan, because that's where the season is going to be won or lost, in the sense of, are we going to have a chance? If we lose to Michigan, I don't know that we're going to get a chance. But going into Michigan, it's not a good feeling knowing that the weakness of this defense is something that Michigan is pretty good at.
Man, I tell you what, for all the stuff that we're upset with the offense, and the scariest part of yesterday's game was the defense. I really started to get concerned because they're overrated. I'm starting to think this defense is overrated. They cannot handle the power run. They have been lucky that some teams went away from it in other games. Wisconsin went away from it last week. And Notre Dame went away from it late in their game, or they would have won, because they were starting to run with, oh man, what the hell is it big? Audric Estime. They were starting to really pack on some yards with them. Now, granted,
Notre Dame, so disappointing. Notre Dame screws everything up. Notre Dame can't.
Yeah, we'll get to the schedule here in a moment, but Audric Estime was starting to really rack up some yards. And a lot of that, Ohio State was worn down because they weren't substituting that game. Didn't make any sense. But again, a lot of things Ohio State doesn't make sense. That's why they don't win national championships like other teams. But oh well. Why aren't we playing all of the big 300-pound defensive tackles we've obtained? Like Tywone Malone, Hero Kanu. Hero Kanu did play some, but Tywone Malone and Caden McDonald, I don't see them anywhere. Hero Kanu is just so substituting for Tyleek. He should be in there for Michael Hall. Michael Hall's not giving us anything on the defensive line anymore. He used to be a good pass rusher, but against Rutgers, he wasn't providing anything. He's just a small guy trying to make it as defensive tackle at 270 pounds. That's not going to cut it anymore, man. You need the big guys. They need to be playing those guys like Tywone Malone, Hero Kanu, Caden McDonald, along with Tyleek, against the teams like Rutgers, Wisconsin, Notre Dame, teams that are more one-dimensional, and just playing like a Stuffman package, not the Rushman, the Stuffman. Play all a bunch of 300-pounders and be like, okay, try and run on us now.
I don't get, when you clearly have got one thing to worry about with Rutgers. I mean, their passing attack is not going to beat you. I mean, it's just not. The guy was not a good passer. They don't have, wide receivers that are going to hurt you a whole lot. And you're getting killed in the run game. You're giving up 200 and how many yards did they give up? 250 yards?
Rushing?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, 230, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, well over 200 yards rushing. Put the big boys in there. I don't get it. I don't know. Are they that bad? Are they that incapable of helping against a a middle of the road? I know they're 6-2, but I mean they're a middle of the road type of opponent. I mean, they might win 7 or 8 games. That's a great season for Rutgers,
Mhm.
but they're not a great team, not an overly talented team. These
No.
guys can't play against them. They can't get in there and help.
Yeah, and some people were like, pointing out the safeties being hurt yesterday. Like Josh Proctor got a
Yeah.
concussion, Lathan Ransom didn't play, but Rutgers was killing our front seven. What the hell do the safeties have to do with that? They have
Right.
nothing to do with that. That's not going to help Ohio State against power run. Ohio State was just getting gashed by Rutgers, and the problem is the front seven. They're too small on the defensive line, especially a defensive tackle, and
Well,
they're
remember, Jay, with the Knowles system, we really only have a front six. We got 4 down linemen and 2 linebackers.
yeah, no, well, yeah, if you want to count that third safety, which is just like Styles, Alex
Yeah.
Styles, but
Yeah.
he's kind of like he's a linebacker
Yeah, he's
skill
kinda like a
set.
hybrid.
Yeah, but like they're either too small then at linebacker with Steel Chambers, or they're too slow at that spot with Tommy Eichenberg. Um, Honestly, man, at the linebacker position, now that we were mentioning that some, I would honestly start Cody Simon and Alex Styles at freaking linebacker and
Mm.
go from there over Steele and Tommy because they're both bigger and faster and um, yeah, speaking on the secondary players, some to mention them, Jordan Hancock, Davison Igbinosun, and Sonny Styles were exposed in coverage. They're not good coverage guys. We're lucky that
Yeah.
Hancock, that one the pump and the out and up was not a touchdown. He just missed it.
You know what I think we're seeing, Jay? And this is something that I think we need to make note of moving forward,
Mhm.
is with Jim Knowles as the defensive coordinator and with us committing to more of a 6-man type of front. I know that you've got the run help from the extra safety, but still, we're committing to more of a 6-man type of front. We're going to have stud linebackers. Like you can't get away with like middle of the road linebackers in this 4-2-5. Like
You
you
can't
have to
get
have
away with
legit guys in there.
you can't get away with middling any position if you want to achieve your goals. And what is Ohio State's goal? To win the national championship. And it's not hard. It's not. You just got to be good at every position. You got to be big, strong, fast, and a playmaker at every position. If you
Yeah,
have
but
that in every single position, you're most likely going to win. But they don't
yeah,
have that on this year's team. They do not.
yeah. Well, I mean, what I'm saying is like, there are positions that if the talent around them is good enough, you can kind of cover up for those positions. In the 4-2-5, if you've got 2 linebackers and neither of them are difference makers, it's going to be hard to cover. It's going to be hard to make up for that, no matter how good the defensive line or the secondary is, because you're going to be those guys are in a lot of space. They got to cover a lot of ground, and they got to be very sure tacklers. And for whatever reason, Tommy's strong suit is supposed to be coming up and filling holes, in between the tackles. And I haven't, paid enough attention to the Rutgers game to know how well he did with that, but certainly didn't seem like he did well with it. I mean,
I think he led the team in tackles, but the problem is, it's like Rutgers is the type of team that Tommy Eichenberg is going to feast against. Problem is with Tommy Eichenberg is when he plays teams like Michigan or Georgia or Maryland or any team that can like spread you out and throw it around, he gets exposed. He gets
but was he
exposed.
making tackles 4, 5, 6 yards downfield? I mean, because you can have a lot of tackles and not have actually done a great job.
He did have one stuff on like the goal line that was a good play. I mean, he did have 12 tackles, but again, this sounds like a weird thing, but like, I don't really care how many tackles you have, but like how difficult are the tackles? It's like,
Mhm.
are you getting out there in space and making a play on somebody who's like about to have the edge? Are you able to tackle a dude in the A gaps when it's just you and him kind of thing? Don't pile on after somebody's hit the dude or something and then be credited with the tackle like
Mhm.
people like James Laurinaitis were back in the day.
Mhm.
Um, it's just like, yeah, he was credited for like 12 tackles, was the leading tackler, but um, I don't know. Outside of the one play on the goal line, I didn't see anything that was great there. Rutgers played into what he does best, but they were still able to run the ball.
So looking at this defense in context of this Ohio State offense, I still think that this is a good defense. I know that they were out, 3 starters, and that's another question. That's another like subject as to why we're always out multiple starters every game for 2 years now. But I know we were down 3 starters, but I still think this is a good defense. I think that this is a defense that should be good enough to win a national championship. I think the problem is, I think it's very questionable whether this offense is good enough, because this isn't a defense that's just going to lock people down because we haven't played a good offense yet, Jay. We have not played a good offense yet, not one. And so, while I do think this is a good defense, I'm not going to get carried away and think that, this defense is going to carry us to a national championship without scoring 35 points at some point in time.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. This defense, it's good. And this is the type of defense we needed last year. And we would have won a national championship, but they are not good enough to offset the offense being average, because I wouldn't say the offense is bad. They're just average. They have some really talented individuals, but as a whole, they're average. And as a whole, the defense is good. They are not elite. And what is really scary about this Ohio State team is they kind of seem like a carbon copy of the 2016 team that lost 31-0 to Clemson in the semifinal game.
Boy, that would be ugly.
Yeah, and this team played somebody like Oregon or Alabama or Georgia on a neutral site. I mean, I could absolutely see that happen but I will say this, the 2016 team's defense was better than this defense, but this offense is slightly better than that offense. So they're kind of like, it kind of makes them very, very similar. Like, yeah, was the 2016 team good? Yeah, sure they were, but they weren't good enough to be in the playoffs, and they were able to back in. This team is kind of looks like the same way, although if they lose to Michigan decisively, I don't think they back in, because there are too many teams with either be 0 or 1 loss.
I don't think they will. So, the question that, some people have been asking, or some fans are throwing out there, is this a team of destiny? Is this a team of destiny? And my answer to that question is, obviously we don't know. Is this a team of destiny until the story is written? I'm going to be honest with you. In my gut, I don't feel like this is a team of destiny. Maybe I'm just older and more cynical, but in 2002, I never had thoughts of like, this team is not going to have what it takes. I just kind of like took it game by game and was like, I always kind of felt like they could do it. Like, maybe I was just young and stupid, but I felt, even going in to play Miami, I was like, they can do it. They could be, they can win this game. Nobody else believed it, but I thought they could. But, is this a team of destiny? My answer to that is, it better be. Because if it's not, then I don't think it has what it takes. If it's that special team that everything falls together and they're just able to win the games, then awesome, amazing. I'll take it. But I think it better be that, because if we're just talking about lining it up and having what it takes to beat Michigan and 2 more very, very good teams, I don't feel great about it with the overall picture that I've seen through 9 games, even though they're a good team. I just don't think they're an elite team.
No, I agree. I mean, honestly, man, my top 5 right now does not include Ohio State in it. At number 5, I would have Washington. Number 4, I would have Michigan. Number 3, I would have Georgia. 2, Oregon. And number 1, this is going to sound crazy, but here they come, just coming down they're like a locomotive, man, good luck stopping them, is Alabama. Yeah. Alabama right now, to me, is the best team in the country. They are. They figured it out. They lost to Texas, but Jalen Milroe figured it out. They now have an explosive offense. They do. They have a very good offense and a very good defense. They're the most balanced team in the country because of that. It's like, who's going to stop them? The only team I think that could probably punch with them is Oregon, because they're equally as good on both sides of the ball, and that's it. Georgia, good on defense. Their offense is slightly better than Ohio State's, which is not enough to compete with Alabama. And
I'll be an Alabama fan first week of December, the SEC championship game. I will be rooting for Alabama.
you will.
If you're a Georgia fan that happens to be watching this, I'm rooting for Alabama. I hope that they dismantle you guys. I can't wait to see it because Saban is still the master. Kirby is still the learner. Kirby's won 2 national championships. When teams don't have their best offensive players on the field, I'm picking Nick Saban to take him down.
Man, dude, that pick by Alabama that I made like weeks ago, I started to see it against Ole Miss, and I was like, that team's going to win the SEC West, and I would pick them to beat Georgia. And I said this a while back. People thought I was crazy. Fresh after the Texas loss, I'm like, man, that's still the best team. That's still the most talented team in the country. I wasn't calling them the best at the time, but they are the most talented team in the country by the talent composite. And then like there was some NFL list that came out like top 50 players for the NFL draft this year that they've seen so far. And Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State all had 5, which led the way. But that basically means Alabama is like right there. And, after those top 50, I would bet Alabama has more than Georgia and Ohio State. So anywho, they're a machine. They have the greatest coach of all time. He's figuring it out. I think it just kind of threw him through a loop what to do with Jalen Milroe. But he's like, go for it, son. Just go ahead and Vince Young us to victories on offense.
Let me say something about that this is somewhat Ohio State related, but also, using Alabama as an example.
Mm-hmm.
We have a very high profile alumni, the highest profile alumni probably that any school has in Kirk Herbstreit. And Kirk Herbstreit continues to disappoint me. He said this thing a while back that, there's a faction of the Ohio State fans that love it. Like they're just taking it and running with it, that he talked about the 15%ers that are never happy with anything. And there's this degenerate 15% of the Ohio State fan base that's just always unhappy, this, that, and the other. After they lost to Texas, Alabama had fans calling in the groves to the Paul Feinbaum show saying it's time to move on from Nick Saban. He's lost it. He's no good anymore. He can't win anymore. I don't hear Kirk Herbstreit talking about Alabama's 15%ers. What's his deal, Jay? Why is he such a punk? Why does he throw his alma mater under the bus? He's so sensitive, but yet he doesn't hold any other fan base to that same standard, and he puts Ohio State fans on blast, saying on a national platform, you can tell this makes me mad, saying on a national platform that these 15%ers keep recruits from coming to Ohio State. Really, Kurt? You're not that stupid to think that some fans on a message board or on Twitter keep recruits from coming to Ohio State. Like he can't be that dense, but he is. But he puts it out there. He throws Ohio State under the bus, and he's making those little comments all the time. And the stupid Ohio State fans, I'm going to say it, the ones that are stupid, they buy it hook, line, sinker. They gobble it down, and they love it.
Number one, think about who you're talking about here. This is Kirk Herbstreit. Terrell Pryor once famously said that he's a fake Buckeye. I do not think he's a fake Buckeye, though. But
yeah, I'd agree with that.
Let's take something under consideration here. This is a man who was chased out of Columbus because supposedly he was having sex with every woman under the sun there. Mm-hmm. And I heard specifically from former Ohio State players back in the day that he would try and make moves on their girlfriends out in like bars, and he would make moves on their girlfriends out in bars and stuff. And his wife just couldn't take it anymore, and they left Columbus. And then
he was living a despicable life, and he blamed Ohio State fans for it.
Yeah. And number two, this is a guy who cried on national television about the whole Black Lives Matter thing. Remember that? He cried like a little bitch. Oh my God, you need to see the clip. It is disgusting and despicable. And that dude needs to lay off the estrogen or something. I don't know if he was getting a sex change or what. This wasn't like Caleb Williams crying after like playing a hard.
I was about to say Kirby and Caleb just need to have a big embrace.
Caleb, I agree. Like I felt bad for that guy legitimately. He played like a warrior that game and just was failed by the defense. But Kirk Herbstreit was just on national television speaking on things that he clearly did not understand in the least. And
but Jay, he crawled. Caleb Williams crawled into his mom's arms and covered his head and cried right
Did they
there.
show how he like went up there? I didn't see him go.
Yes, he climbed into her lap like a little child and draped his arms around her and covered his face and cried. Maurice Claret said he's been thinking about it all day. He said he can't get it out of his mind. He said,
Caleb Williams?
yeah, he said, I've been thinking all day. He tweeted this. He said, I've been thinking all day about what went on in that young man's brain. And when he made the decision that it was a good idea to go crawl in his mama's lap and cry on national television, he goes, I guess that this is why this generation has mental health issues when the coach rips their rear ends, because they can't handle anything.
Maurice Claret cried in a game against Northwestern. I mean, the one game, I think he fumbled a couple times, and again, he wasn't crying to his parents, but he was like visibly crying on the sideline. Again,
and you know what? I've seen a lot of guys do that, and I understand how powerful the emotions of a game can be. And I don't fault a guy for crying on the field if he, if he gave it his all and it didn't work out or whatever. But to crawl into your mom's lap, I mean, that crosses the line for me.
I would need to see it. I only saw when he was like just visibly crying.
Well, let's take a look at it, Jay. Let's watch the whole thing here.
Okay.
Give me just a second. I'll pull it up. And we will, along with the audience that's still with us.
Yeah, man. Where are you at, audience? Say what's up.
Let's see here.
I'm grabbing myself a Coke. Hang on, audience. I'll be right back.
Jay's going to be back here in a moment. We're going to watch Caleb Williams. Guys, put it in the comments what you think about this. Am I being harsh? Am I being off base? Am I being insensitive and mean and cruel? Is this something that is normal? Is this something that a man that is potentially going to be drafted and signed for $42 million? Would you invest $42 million in a guy that paints his fingernails and cries on his mom's lap? I'm going to be honest with you. I wouldn't, but maybe he'll end up being great. But for me, the fingernails was enough for me. I was, it's just too weird to see a football player wrapping his hand around a football.
All right, let's see this, man. Let's see this
with painted fingernails. And so
you never have like one of these. You need like two or three. And this is like one of my cheat nights to the sugar.
All right.
Is like
here it is, Jay. Here you see him crawling up into the stands. Let's take a look at this.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
Yeah. I mean, are you? Yeah.
That guy?
I don't know.
Is that a Washington fan or is that like a family member wearing purple?
I'm not sure. I assume it's a family member. I don't know. But, I'm starting to see a pattern here. Painted fingernails, crawling in his mom's lap. I'm not giving that guy $40 million if I'm an NFL GM. I'm letting him move on down. I'm letting somebody else bite that bullet.
Affect his play. Let me put it this way: he played amazing yesterday. He did everything he could mostly do. So as long as he plays great every game and wants to cry and do whatever, as long as he's producing on the field, then we'll see. But anywho, Michael, moving on. You kept saying something about special team with Ohio State. Are they a special team? What about Ohio State's special teams, sir? You seem to have very strong thoughts there.
Well, they're unacceptable. Special teams is a important part of the game. Our last two coaches, Jim Tressel, obviously was very into special teams, maybe too into special teams, but I'd rather be too into special teams than what we've had. Urban was very big on special teams. You know, he coached the special teams personally for much of his time at Ohio State and much of his time at Florida. So
best special teams coach in the history of Ohio State, Jim Tressel.
Yeah. So, I mean, both of the last two coaches put a heavy emphasis on having good special teams. Urban would lose his mind on the sidelines when the special teams messed up. Our special teams screw up every game. Every game. Or there's some type of special teams.
Oh, yeah.
When special teams are going good, you don't really notice them. They do what they're supposed to. They kick the ball off. They tackle the guy. They punt they return the punt. They get a decent return. They go out and tackle the guy on the punt return. When special teams are good, you don't notice them that much. When special teams are great, they make a big impact. You pin teams deep. You have a big return. You block a kick. So they can be extremely impactful. But our special teams, you notice them every week, not for any of those things. You notice them every week for some type of screw up, and it becomes all the more magnified when we're paying a guy to do nothing besides be the special teams coach, and he's taking a defensive spot when we need, another defensive coach to balance it out. And he's a zero on the recruiting trail. So every time I see the special teams do something, that's below par, it just drives me nuts because Ryan Day hired this guy as an analyst or whatever he was to take the special teams, and the special teams weren't that good last year, and he gave him a raise. He raised him for being a very mediocre to poor special teams coach, and it hasn't done anything. It hasn't improved. If anything, it might have even gotten worse this year.
What in the hell was that fake punt? What was that?
Well, Ryan Day didn't even seem to know.
That was like, what are you doing, dude? Like, I honestly didn't know what to think. Like, I almost felt like I was dreaming. Like, did that actually just happen?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. I didn't really know what to think. I'm like, man, that was the most dastardly play that could have happened.
So Ryan Day says it wasn't a called fake, but you could see some of the guys on the end that he was kind of running around to. They clearly got some type of message that they were doing a block, because they were blocking like they were trying to open up a lane. So the miscommunication happened somewhere. But ultimately this falls on the special teams coach.
How many miscommunications are they going to freaking have? Seems like it's just all the freaking time.
Yeah. Two big missed fake punts in two of the biggest games last year. Michigan and Georgia. Kirby says that he saw that something was off, that something wasn't right, and so he calls the timeout. So I guess give Kirby credit for that. But guess what? It wouldn't have mattered if Kirby called the timeout or not, because they didn't have enough people on. They had 12 guys on the field, so it wouldn't have counted anyhow. So yeah, I am just Burrow, 31 for 44, 348 yards and 2 touchdowns. Bengals.
I saw that they win. It's right here on right next to me. I decided to turn it on just because I know you're a Bengals fan. Yeah.
So I mean it's unacceptable. Parker Fleming has to go. I don't know. I assume maybe James Laurinaitis is earning a spot on the staff. We need a linebacker coach. We clearly need somebody who can recruit stud linebackers, and he's supposed to be a good recruiter. So I say
we haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen it yet with his recruiting. And speaking of recruiting, man, you saw the dude who I sent you, who has just been now offered by Ohio State.
Yeah,
you saw that, right? So this guy. So again, Justin Fry, man, oh man, oh man. So we lost a commit from Mark Nave. He was from like Toledo Central Catholic. And we're like, okay, we're going to get somebody better. Well, we go and offer a guy who is committed to Northwestern. His name is Gabe Van Sickle, and he is a composite 3-star, 861st player in the country, rating of an 87. And this is what Ohio State is doing on the offensive line? This fucking garbage? And people are wondering why the offensive line is struggling. We didn't touch on them a lot, but Josh Fryer sucks. Some people are like, oh, I'm really disappointed in Josh Fryer. Well, why? What were you expecting? He was rated about similarly to this kid. But
Yeah.
this kid isn't going to play in the All-American game like Josh Fryer did. What were you expecting here? What were you expecting from a transfer from Josh Simmons, who played at San Diego State?
Yeah.
Like, what were you expecting? You need to recruit better. Recruit the top 100 and the 5 stars, and you won't run into these problems. But Justin Fryer is collecting a fucking paycheck for not doing jack shit. Greg Distrawa is a better coach than him.
Let's qualify that. Let's qualify that, Jay. Justin Fry is not collecting a paycheck. Justin Fry is the highest paid offensive line coach in the nation. In the nation.
Is he really strictly just offensive line? Because I think he was labeled like co-OC too as well.
No, he's the run game coordinator.
Fucking Ryan Day, man. Fucking Ryan Day. No fucking connections to hire elite coaches. Although Jim Knowles is doing better this year, but I continue to say Jim Knowles has only gotten better because he just has better players running the scheme. That's it.
Well, nothing. You know what? Justin Fry would probably get better too if he would get some better players. But it doesn't look like he's doing that. And this Van Sickle kid, like, hey, more power to him, man. He got an Ohio State offer. Congratulations to him. That's not his fault that Ohio State is dropping the ball. So if he wants to take it, and if he wants to come in and give his shot that he can develop and that he can play at this level, then more power to him. That's he's earned that right. But it's Justin Fry's fault that we're offering kids ranked in the 800s. I mean, there really should never be a kid unless he's just a true diamond in the rough. And like we just see it. And, oh my gosh, it's like a one-off. But that's not the case here. We're offering this kid Van Sickle because he whiffed on everything else. Everything.
Yeah. I know Jordan Seaton's still alive out there. I don't know if he's visiting for Michigan State, #1 offensive tackle in the country. He's from the D.C. area. He played at St. John's, but he plays for IMG now. I have no belief in the world that Justin Fry has any chance of getting this kid. I know Ryan Day's really trying to up the NIL game to get this guy and trying to save.
I haven't even seen him give some reciprocal interest in Ohio State. I haven't even seen him indicate like he's interested in coming to Ohio State.
He's a game player, man. He knows what he has. He is. I mean, I've seen his film. He is the most talented lineman in the country. Which means he's not going to go to Ohio State. Talented offensive lineman, unless they're already from Ohio or from the Midwest. Don't go to Ohio State. I mean, yeah, we got Nicholas Petit-Ferrer because Greg Schiano, had a connection to the kid's high school. His son went there when, he was a Tampa Bay Buccaneers coach. Paris Johnson was from Ohio. It is what it is.
You know what, Jay? On the message board a while back, they were arguing with me that, well, the reason that Fry can't get any good offensive linemen is because it's just that there aren't any good offensive linemen in our region. So it makes it really, really hard when, all the good offensive linemen are in the South. So I pulled up the 247 for the last year's recruiting and for this year's recruiting. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, there's quite a few good offensive linemen in the Big Ten footprint. And you know where they're going? They're going to places like Florida. They're going to places like Michigan. They're going to places like Tennessee. They're going to places like Oregon. Oregon went down to Alabama.
And New Jersey, like in the Big Ten footprint, which is weird to say New Jersey and like Maryland area, Big Ten footprint, they produce the best offensive linemen.
Yeah. Oregon went to Alabama and got an offensive lineman.
Yeah, well, that's Dan Lanning. He has those Southeast connections.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I don't know, man. People keep saying that Greg Schiano's done a good job at Rutgers. What the fuck has he done at Rutgers? I mean, they haven't won anything. They're not recruiting well. I'm confused. Like, they're like, oh, a program like Rutgers, they don't have, it's going to be hard to win there. Well, why? The New Jersey is a hotbed for talent. What do you mean it's going to be hard to win at Rutgers? Why is it hard to win at Maryland? You lock down the DMV and you have a really good team. You lock down the New Jersey area, you have a really good team. but they're not doing that. And the
No,
SEC,
it's just getting those kids. It's just getting those kids to stay there. And I mean,
yeah.
Shiano he's got them bowl eligible. And if he can win 6 or 7 games a year, he's going to be able to stay at Rutgers.
Eligible playing in the shitty Big Ten. The Big Ten fucking sucks. It's terrible this year.
Well, at least he is in the Big Ten East. I mean, if you're not one of the 3 good teams, the Big Ten East is pretty difficult because you've got Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan. Now, if you're one of those 3 teams, you've only got 2 teams that you have to deal with. But, if you're the Maryland or the Rutgers of the world, you do have 3 top 10 teams you have to deal with. But the Big Ten doesn't have anything outside of that. I'm very disappointed in the Big Ten as a whole this year. I felt like they were
– Go and look in there. Like, again, they were starting to do better as a conference recruiting, but like the 2022 and 2023 classes for the Big Ten have sucked. Garbage recruiting classes by the conference. So
yeah,
it's not unexpected. The Big Ten's not recruiting well. Until they start recruiting better, this is what's going to happen. Luke Fickell has not recruited better than the previous coach at Wisconsin. Greg Schiano has not upped Rutgers. Maryland's not recruiting well. Michigan State's not recruiting well. Minnesota's a dumpster fire. Nebraska sucks. They all recruit terribly.
Luke Fickell could be in for big trouble because Wisconsin was able to recruit that level, or they were able to win 9-10 games with that level of talent because they played a very specific type of football. Now, if you're going to abandon that type of football, which Luke Fickell is looking to kind of move beyond that, then you better recruit significantly better, or it's only going to get worse. And so far, he's not doing that
unless you have the speed to do it.
Yeah. Well, Jay, this has been one of those episodes where I have been a little bit more worked up about some things. But
me too, man. That's why I have rage on here, dude. I'm not happy with a lot of things.
Yeah. But hey, to close it on a positive note, it's 9-0. It's 99.9% chance that it's going to be 11-0. And then you go to the big house and we're going to see if Ryan Day can get over his Jim Harbaugh mental block that ever since he said, and I've pointed this out, and some people don't like me pointing this out, that ever since, and now it's the cheating thing. Okay. Well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out if it was cheating, if that's the only reason that Michigan's had success the last 2 years.
Michael? No, go ahead. Finish.
Ever since Ryan Day said we're going to hang 100 on Michigan, he has been pummeled by Michigan. And so he really needs to break that. I get it. He's not going to get fired, and I'm not even calling for him to get fired if he goes 11-1 and loses to Michigan. I'm not calling for him to be fired, but it's going to make his time in Columbus very difficult for the next 364 days if he goes to the big house and loses 3 in a row to Jim Harbaugh and the Skunk Weasels.
Yes, I agree. And I will say that, and one bit of good news through all of this is, do I think Rutgers is a good team? No, I don't. I don't know why people are giving Rutgers credit. They're no good. They're not a very good team. But at the same time, Ohio State did play Penn State and then Wisconsin, and then they had to go on the road to Rutgers, and Rutgers had a bye week. So they had 2 weeks to prepare for Ohio State. So that does factor in.
It does. It does
factor in some there. So
you know what else happened? You know what else happens, Jay? This is the time of year that everybody is feeling worn down. And so if you can get through this, and if you can beat Michigan, and the Big Ten championship's not going to be a problem, then you get to go in a playoff game. Everybody's fresh. Everybody's feeling good. And sometimes it can look very, very different at that point in the season when everybody gets their legs back underneath them and kind of gets recovered than it is at this point of the season where it is a grind. Everybody's hurting. Everybody's tired. Everybody's legs are not what they were, 6-7 weeks ago. So there's hope for it, but we've got a small window. We've got a narrow needle to thread this year with this offense, as we said. So
Michael, I want to ask the audience and anybody listening, do you want Michael and I to do a live post game show immediately after the Ohio
We
State
we
Michigan
we
game?
we got to get 100 subs, Jay.
Oh,
We
okay.
got to
Okay.
get 100 subs.
All right, well, people, fucking subscribe. What the hell are you doing? I noticed we have like a bunch of viewers every episode. Why aren't you people
Yeah,
subscribing?
we're almost 40%. We're about 40% the way there. Let's do it. Let's kick it up. Let's get 100 subs and let's
I
go
want to see
live.
30 subscribers in the next week, people. That's what I want to see. So then we
Yep.
can have like the post game show that you're all dying to see.
All right. All right, Jay. That's
All
a
right,
wrap.
Michael.
We're going to get out of here.
Yeah, man.
Thank you guys for watching, and we'll be back next week.
Yeah.